Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. Now, today's video is designed to help you review some of the key knowledge that you need for your upcoming end of year English assessments or exams. And in today's video, we're going to be focusing on two main areas. We're going to be looking at conflict poetry, and then the second will be related to Macbeth. For poetry specifically, we're going to be looking at Jesse Pope, reviewing Jesse Pope, Wilfred Owen, the concept of jingoism, propaganda, and of course the meaning of that Latin phrase dulce et decorum est, which obviously gives the poem its title. For Macbeth, we're looking at reviewing really key kind of tragic vocabulary, looking at words like hubris and hamartia, as well as the word eponymous, which is going to be new to us, as well as some core quotations from the beginning of the play. Now, the aim with this homework is not for you to be writing long, detailed paragraphs. It's just short, one-mark questions, retrieval knowledge, embedding that knowledge in your long-term memory, showing that we understand these key quotations and key terms. That's what this is all about. Now, as you watch, you are welcome. It's a video, so you can pause whenever you need to, read the information on the slide, note anything down. And then what I'm going to be doing is I'll kind of give you the information and I'll give you the time within the video to actually have a go at answering the questions, and then you can self-assess your own answers and purple pen. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing, just reviewing that key knowledge that will come up potentially in our end of year exam as those short answer 1 mark retrieval questions. Okay, start with jingoistic. So jingoistic would be applied to someone or indeed something that supports or who supports their country in a really extreme, aggressive, and exaggerated way. So in poetry, a jingoistic poet is someone who can make war sound patriotic, exciting, and noble. Jesse Pope, of course, that we've studied with Who's for the Game, can be described, I think, fairly as jingoistic because she encourages in the course of the poem young men to fight and enlist, and therefore to that end makes war seem like a brave, exciting, rather masculine game rather than obviously a horrific experience that people soon realized it actually was when they got into the trenches. The word jingoistic and jingoism comes from the phrase by jingo, which appeared in a popular British song in the 1870s. And it was a song that itself supported aggressive action abroad by the army. So jingoism came to mean that really sort of loud, extreme, and even like a sort of aggressive militaristic form of patriotism. Okay, talking of that, let's think about Jesse Pope. And we're thinking about the glorification of war in the poem Who's for the Game. So when we glorify something, we make something seem far better and indeed more impressive than it actually is. So we can say in Who's for the Game, Jesse Pope glorifies war by comparing it metaphorically to sport or a game. She also uses a range of rhetorical questions, and all of this is to put psychological pressure on men to enlist. War seems exciting. It seems an opportunity for heroism. It seems an opportunity for a quite specifically masculine form of competition. But what the presentation does and what the metaphor does is hides or skirts over the real consequences of war, which are injury, fear, trauma, and for many young men, death. So that's really, really important that we understand that about the poem. That's really kind of the core of our understanding. Okay, then we move on. We're looking at Dulce et Decorum Est, and there's an image of Wilfred Owen. So the final line of the poem, Dulce et Decorum Est pro patria mori, it means it can be loosely translated as it's sweet and fitting to die for your country. This is a very long-standing old patriotic idea, originally from the Roman poet Horace. Now, remember, Owen is not quoting it to endorse it and say, yes, this is what I agree with. I agree it's sweet and fitting to die for your country. The quoting of this line is ironic because Owen, of course, is completely rejecting the sentiment. He calls it the old lie because he obviously thinks it's dishonest, disingenuous, deceitful, dangerous to tell young men that dying in war is glorious. And his poem then sets out to depict war and to very carefully craft, I think, the experience in the trenches as painful, grotesque, heroic, traumatic, and utterly devoid of any honor, really, whatsoever. Okay, the poem itself then, a little bit of context. Obviously, it's focused on the First World War. It's based on Owen's own direct experiences as a soldier poet, if you will. He started writing it, the earliest draft is in 1917. He worked on it into 1918, so it's right towards the end of the First World War. It matters because, of course, by that point, by coming towards the end of the war, people really understood and realized that the war was not the glorious adventure promised by early propaganda, including in the poem Who's for the Game. Owen himself had witnessed, experienced directly the reality of trench warfare, gas attacks, the mass suffering that trench warfare engendered. So his poem can be read, and I think it's fruitfully read, as a direct challenge to jingoistic, patriotic lies about war and the experience of war. Okay, so that covers the first section. Your job now would be to pause the video, have a go answering, okay, go through the various questions. I've given you the raw material, the knowledge that you need. You can answer them, and then, so pause the video, give yourself however long you need to do that, probably 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll go through the answers. So you can check your answers there. Remember, these are all kind of 1-mark responses, so we're not writing a full paragraph. We need to make sure we're accurate. If your answer, you've written something that, jingoistic means extreme patriotic support for war, that's fine. If your answer explains that Pope makes war sound like a game, that's okay. And obviously for Owen, make sure we've got both parts there. So the meaning of the Latin phrase, and also the fact that Owen is ironically quoting it and rejecting it. Okay, we move on. Now we're focused on hubris. We're turning to the kind of Macbeth section. So hubris, excessive pride, arrogance. In a tragedy, in Shakespearean tragedy, it's dangerous because it causes a character to ignore warnings, to overestimate themselves and their abilities, or indeed to believe that they are untouchable. Macbeth kind of qualifies for all of these. And he shows hubris over the course of the play, but particularly when he becomes far too confident because of a number of the witches' prophecies. So Macbeth ignores warnings, he overestimates his own abilities, and he also believes he's untouchable. He kind of meets all 3 criteria for hubris. Okay, hamartia refers to a character's tragic flaw. It is the weakness in a tragic hero, like Macbeth, that helps precipitate, cause their downfall. Macbeth's hamartia is, depending on how you read the play, it's fair to say it's ambition. The start of the play, Macbeth isn't just simply sort of straightforwardly evil. It's more complicated than that. He is very brave. He is respected, but his ambition is this vulnerability, and it makes him vulnerable to the temptations of the witches and their so-called prophecies. And it is his ambition and his kind of receptiveness and openness to their prophecies that eventually destroys him. Okay, so we're thinking about Macbeth over the course of the play, but particularly at the start. So at the beginning, the captain is describing Macbeth's heroism and behavior on the battlefield. So he's a brave warrior, he's loyal, but he's also very, very, very breathtakingly violent. The captain relays the violence that Macbeth metes out to the king's enemies on the battlefield. But this violence is praised because it's in service of the king. He's fighting for King Duncan. It's violence that is authorized, it's legitimate, it's considered acceptable. In fact, it's considered worthy of celebration because it's for Duncan and for Scotland. But this is important because later on, not much later, but I suppose shortly after, Macbeth will use violence, more violence, but he's going to use it selfishly to gain illegitimately the crown and also then to protect his own kind of usurping position as king. Okay, so Macbeth and Duncan, we've got a real contrast between these two kings, Macbeth, okay, and Duncan. And we've got this connection between the two and light and dark imagery. When Duncan is on stage and when he's described and discussed, he's associated with goodness, order, rightful kingship, light imagery. Macbeth is associated, on the other hand, the complete opposite or antithesis, darkness, secrecy, deception, corruption. So when Macbeth says, "Stars, hide your fires, let not light see my black and deep desires," he wants a kind of unnatural darkness to shroud or hide his ambition and his black and deep desires. And this is obviously telling the audience that he knows his desires are morally wrong, and he wants them to be to remain hidden from others. Okay, so eponymous. We can be quick with this. Just important that we understand eponymous. What does it mean? It means it's a character who has the same name as the title of the text in this context. So guess what? Macbeth is the eponymous character because the play is called Macbeth, and Macbeth is the central character. If you are curious, epi in Greek means upon or after, and onyma means name, so broadly means kind of like named after someone or something. Eponymous means named after someone or something. So in literature, when we use the term eponymous, Macbeth is the eponymous character. It means that the title and the character share the same name. Okay, quotations, gap fill, complete them. So we've got a series of quotations there. These quotations are all useful because they track Macbeth's early presentation. The first three show how he's presented by the captain as brave and violent, and the fourth and fifth come from Macbeth himself, and they're all about his hidden ambition. So we're kind of moving in these quotations from public heroism to private darkness and moral corruption. Here are the answers. Okay, so spelling really matters here. Make sure that we're noticing that the spelling needs to be accurate. Make sure we're getting the words absolutely right. So we've got brave Macbeth, well, he deserves that name. Brandish steel, that's his sword, smoked with bloody execution, great quotation, carved out his passage to the slave. It's all very brutal. It's all very violent. It's all, I suppose, impressive at the same time. But it's a form. It's a violent depiction of Macbeth that will become all the more troubling as the play develops. Okay, now thinking about this here, we've got the connection between Macbeth's first words, "So foul and fair a day I have not seen," and also the first words of the witches in Act 1, Scene 1, where they say, "Fair is foul and foul is fair, hover through the fog and filthy air." That's conveying the connection between Macbeth and the witches, and potentially also the fact that the witches who speak first in the first act and scene, Act 1, Scene 1, they say fair is foul, foul is fair. And then in when Macbeth first appears, he says, "So foul and fair a day I have not seen." He echoes the language of the witches, which is maybe suggestive of the witches' supernatural power over him. Okay, so again, same process. You've got enough material for you to review the answers and to give this all a go, to write your own. Give yourself 5 or 10 minutes again, and then I will go through the answers, on the next slide. And here we go. Here they are. So just to quickly go through. Skipped on a slide. So we need to self-assess. Okay, these are the answers. You can see them on the screen. 1 mark questions. Our answer needs to be short and direct. Hubris, excessive pride and arrogance. Hamartia, tragic flaw for Macbeth specifically, its ambition. Imagery, light and dark imagery is a key contrast between Duncan, light, and Macbeth, darkness. And then the final answer, Macbeth's first words echo the witches, which is maybe highlighting the connection between Macbeth and the witches, but also the supernatural power potentially that they have over Macbeth, the eponymous hero, or tragic hero, I should say, not very heroic, tragic hero of the play. Okay, final task, just to add this in here. You could then review this out loud. So what I would do is I would just say these out loud. Jingoistic means, what does it mean? You say it out loud. Pope glorifies war by, and then work your way through. Just practice saying them out loud. I'm a big, firm believer that by saying these things out loud, it helps us commit them to memory. I always feel like if I practice saying something out loud rather than just written it down, it helps me put it in my long-term memory. And that might help you too. So there's some verbal sentence starters there. Just practice saying these out loud. Hopefully that will help you commit these to memory. So there is your support video with the key answers and guidance and explanation. And week 30 done, setting us up for next week. And hopefully by the time the end of year exams come around, we'll feel super well prepared because we've done our revision and we've engaged with support revision resources like this. I will see you on the next one.